the area of conflicts. When it comes to leadership, it's a role that comes with a lot of responsibilities, a lot of accountability with it. So conflicts play a very vital role, be it your inner conflicts as a person, as who you are and what you're going through, and the external conflicts that happen in the environment that you're in. So with a reference to corporate mythology, with reference to our treasure that has been left for us to actually fall back on from the past, can you share some stories, some things that have happened in the past that can bring forward this element of conflicts and help us understand as leaders, how do we better deal with these internal and external conflicts?
Very powerful question, Prashant, I must say. Where leadership is really challenged, especially in the modern day, is when there's a conflict, and these conflicts have many features, different colors. They really challenge you in terms of how you behave, especially when you're in the corporate sector, where it's like cutthroat competition and politics and things like that. Well, the first example that comes to my mind is the conflict. For example, Arjuna. He was in deep turmoil. It's a conflict. They were fighting for so long, particular, the kingdom of their own. They were just seeking it back. Even that wasn't given. They said, okay, please, can you give us 5 villages? Because we are administrators. We are Kshatriyas. The Kshatriya class in the Vedic times were administrators. They said, we need something to rule, because we can't be doing other stuff. So the evil, the Duryodhana, he said, forget about 5 villages, forget about your kingdom. I'm not going to give you land on which you can keep at the tip of a needle. So, they tried. Krishna came. Sometimes people easily blame Krishna that because of him there was Mahabharata, so many people were killed. But people forget that before that, he actually went to the Duryodhana saying that, what, let's have peace. Nobody wants war. But he didn't give it. So while the Pandavas were struggling throughout their life to get the kingdom, now was the time for Arjuna to actually execute the plan, whether he liked it or not. But then all of a sudden, Jesus gives it up because there was a conflict. His material attachment, his attachment to kinsmen, his relatives, his teachers, it started kind of coming out. And that's where Krishna actually, that's the biggest conflict. We all have these conflicts in our life, So Arjuna is a very prime example. And that's where Krishna, only by knowledge, and he says that, that I am giving you this knowledge. In the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says, because you're envious, you're my friend, I'm revealing this knowledge to you. And what he did by that knowledge, he amplified his inner voice. He connected with him to a much larger good, because he was getting kind of thinking about me, my relatives, my this thing, I, me, mine. That's all he wanted. That's all he was talking about. And then Krishna said, no, you can't be just so self-centric. Leader can't be self-centric. His decisions, like even Chanakya says, the great teacher of roughly around 300 BC, he came, and he says the same thing. The real leader, for him, his own happiness is actually, he's scared of his own desires and own happiness, because he looks at the happiness of his people. The moment he does that, that's where he becomes a real leader. And Arjuna was trying to kind of figuring out, I don't like this. I don't want to do this. I want to do this. No, I was capital. It was in caps. I sometimes wonder in English, it should be actually small, right? So Krishna, kind of as a mentor, as a coach, like you are into coaching, what you do, you amplify that inner voice of theirs, because it's subdued, because the external are actually kind of taking a toll, name, fame, glory, this whole marketing things, you see the number of likes, the number of comments. So it takes precedence. And that's where the trouble is. So Krishna helped Arjuna to amplify his inner voice, see the bigger picture, and then decide. And that's where he decided, okay, no, to establish Dharma, to establish good governance, war is required. You know, it's sometimes required. People may say, oh, no, peace. Yeah, peace needs to be given a chance if it's not there. But how do you protect the good citizens otherwise? If my military says, no war, I'll come back, the border is empty, will I be safe? Today, you and me are talking because we feel safe at home, because somebody has raised a weapon.
Very true. Very true.
That's his job, to discipline, right? To protect. That's what his administration is all about. That's what the leadership is all about, is to protect, is to have that circle of safety in the organization. Is not able to provide that. That's where people start looking out, within some time, because they don't feel safe. If a child doesn't feel safe in the home, he will start looking out. And the moment he becomes 18 plus and he is able to figure it out, he's going to go out. Right. So like Simon Sinek in his book, Leaders Eat Last, very beautiful. Like 3M, we all know company 3M. There was this one scientist, pardon me, I think I lost his name. So he was working on an adhesive. So he was mixing things and doing, and his experiment failed terribly. So much so that the adhesive he wanted, actually, it was one of the weakest adhesives he ever made. It was a very weak adhesive. He had failed completely. But he pushed this story into the organization that, you know what? I did such and such thing. I actually failed, and I made a very weak adhesive. And one more scientist, one day he was in the church and they were reading Bible, and one of the bookmarks fell. And he found it difficult to always keep this bookmark. And he realized, if I would have something which is very soft adhesive, I would have kind of put it here. And he realized there was this mail, the communication from the other scientist, but failed. He actually took it. And when you see all these colorful offices, 3M notes, that's where it came from. From a failure of a scientist. But because the company had a culture of safety, and mistakes were allowed. So the circle of safety was so strong. People very happy. That's what we do as parents sometimes. Right? We don't allow our kids to do mistakes. And he doesn't feel safe. He doesn't share things. When you don't share. So that's one of the prime things, also, I'm just kind of connecting the dots here. What I spoke before is when you amplify the voice and you're able to exercise it, is when you have this circle of safety, as Simon Sinek calls it, and concept. So as a leader, I think this is something where you can have conflicts. And as a leader, you need to not only amplify your voice, but also help the people in around you to amplify their voices. Give them the environment where they can amplify their inner voices, where they can openly exercise that. And that's something which is very important.